You're floating in the warm, open ocean, but you're not swimming yet. You're just a tiny, translucent speck drifting with millions of others in the endless blue. Your mother released you into the water days ago along with hundreds of thousands of your siblings. She didn't stick around to see what happened next. That's not how this works. You're on your own from the moment you exist, and frankly, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Right now, you're smaller than a grain of rice. You don't have fins yet, you don't have the brilliant colors that will define you later, and you definitely don't have the speed that will keep you alive. What you do have is a yolk sac attached to your tiny body, and that's your lifeline. It's your first meal, your only meal, and when it's gone, you better figure out how to find more food fast. The ocean around you is not empty. It's teeming with life, and most of that life wants to eat you. Jellyfish drift by like floating death traps, their tentacles trailing behind them. If you bump into one, that's it. Game over before you even got started. Then there are the small fish, the ones that seem harmless, but see you as the perfect bite-sized snack. They cruise through the water, mouths open, filtering everything they can find. You're exactly what they're looking for, but you're not just sitting there waiting to be eaten. You're growing, and you're growing fast. Within days, your body starts changing. Tiny fins begin to form, your tail starts to take shape, and most importantly, your mouth develops. That yolk sac is almost empty now, and you need to start hunting. Your first prey is even smaller than you are, if you can believe that. Microscopic organisms, tiny larvae, anything you can fit in your mouth. You don't think about it, you just eat. Everything that moves and fits becomes food. The water around you is full of your siblings, doing the exact same thing. Some are faster than you, some are slower. Some figured out the whole eating thing quicker, others are still struggling. The ones that don't adapt fast enough simply vanish. You don't see them die, they just stop being there. One day there are thousands of you drifting together, the next day there are hundreds. It's not personal, it's just mathematics. As you grow, your body starts showing the first hints of what you'll become. Your scales develop a metallic sheen, and your fins grow stronger. But the most important change is your speed. You're getting faster every day, and speed is survival. The faster you are, the more likely you are to catch food. The faster you are, the more likely you are to escape becoming food yourself. It's really that simple. Then something shifts in your behavior. You stop drifting aimlessly with the current and start swimming with purpose. Your instincts are kicking in, telling you where to go and what to do. You're not alone anymore either. Other young Mahi, the ones who survived this far, are doing the same thing. You start moving together, not because you planned it, but because there's safety in numbers. This is when you encounter your first real predator. It comes out of nowhere, a blur of silver and teeth. It's a small tuna, and to you, it might as well be a monster. It rockets through your group, mouth open, and several of your companions disappear in an instant. You react without thinking, darting sideways as fast as your tiny fins can propel you. The tuna doesn't chase you specifically, it just keeps going, looking for easier targets. Your heart is racing, if you can call it that. This is your introduction to the reality of ocean life. Everything bigger than you wants to eat you, and there's always something bigger. But you survived, and that means you're learning. You're getting better at reading the water, at sensing when danger is near, at reacting fast enough to stay alive. Within weeks, you've grown from a tiny speck to a recognizable fish. You're still small, maybe the length of a human finger, but you look like a mahi now. Your colors are starting to show, a hint of the brilliant yellow and green that will make you famous. Your dorsal fin is getting taller, and your body is taking on that distinctive shape. You're becoming what you were meant to be. Food is everywhere if you know where to look. Small fish, squid larvae, tiny crustaceans. You've become an efficient predator in your own right, darting through the water and snatching prey before it knows what hit it. Your eyesight is sharp, your reflexes are quick, and your appetite is endless. You eat constantly because growing this fast takes energy, and energy comes from food. But you're still vulnerable. You're bigger than you were, but you're nowhere near big enough to be safe. Larger fish cruise through your territory regularly, and you've learned to recognize the signs. A shadow passing overhead, a change in the water pressure, the sudden silence that means every other fish has already fled. When you sense danger, you don't hesitate. You dive deep, hide among whatever cover you can find, and wait for the threat to pass. The ocean is vast, but it's also surprisingly crowded. You're constantly running into other species, other predators, other prey. Some you ignore, some ignore you, and some see you as either a threat or a meal. You're learning to navigate these interactions, to know when to fight, when to flee, and when to simply mind your own business. Your group is changing too. Some of the Mahi you've been traveling with have grown faster than others. The bigger ones are starting to assert themselves, claiming the best feeding spots and pushing the smaller ones aside. You're somewhere in the middle, not the biggest, but not the smallest either. It's a delicate balance, but you're holding your own. Then you encounter something that changes everything. It's floating on the surface, massive and strange. It's not alive, but it's covered in life. Barnacles crust its surface, seaweed hangs from its edges, and small fish dart in and out of its shadows. It's debris, probably from a ship, but to you and your kind, it's a gold mine. This floating object has become a traveling ecosystem, and it's loaded with food. You and the other Mahi converge on it, like it's the discovery of the century. And in a way, it is. The smaller fish hiding in its shadows are easy pickings. The crustaceans clinging to its surface are practically serving themselves up. You feast like you've never feasted before, your belly full for the first time since you can remember. But this floating paradise attracts more than just Mahi. Larger predators know that where there's a floating object, there's food. And where there's food, there are fish like you. You're so focused on eating that you almost miss the danger approaching from below. It's a shark, not huge, but definitely big enough to make you its lunch. The attack comes fast. The shark rockets upward from the depths, aiming for the cluster of Mahi feeding near the surface. You scatter in every direction, but not everyone is fast enough. The shark's jaws snap shut on one of the larger Mahi, and just like that, your group is smaller again. The feeding frenzy is over, replaced by the harsh reminder that in the ocean, you're never more than a moment away from death. You've learned something important, though. These floating objects are worth the risk. The food they provide can fuel your growth in ways that random hunting never could. You'll seek them out, but you'll be smarter about it. You'll stay alert, keep an eye on the depths, and never let your guard down completely. As months pass, you continue to grow. Your body stretches longer, your fins grow more powerful, and your colors become more vibrant. The yellow of your sides is getting brighter, the green of your back more intense. You're starting to look like the Mahi you see in your genetic memory, the ones that rule these waters. Your hunting skills are improving too. You're no longer just grabbing whatever small prey happens to swim by. You're actively stalking larger targets, using your speed and agility to outmaneuver them. Flying fish are becoming a regular part of your diet. They burst from the water trying to escape, but you've learned to anticipate their moves, to be waiting when they come back down. The group dynamics are shifting as well. You're no longer one of the smaller ones. You've grown enough to hold your own against most of the others, and the truly small ones give you space when you're feeding. It's not aggression exactly, more like a natural hierarchy based on size and strength. The ocean doesn't have time for fairness. You're also becoming more aware of the seasons, though they're subtle in these tropical waters. The currents change, the water temperature fluctuates slightly, and the types of prey that are abundant shift with these cycles. You're learning to read these signs, to know when to move to new hunting grounds and when to stay put. One day, you encounter something that stops you cold. It's another mahi-mahi, but this one is massive, easily twice your size, with colors so brilliant they seem to glow in the filtered sunlight. This is what you could become, what you're growing toward. It moves with a confidence you don't possess yet, owning the water around it in a way that makes other fish simply get out of its way. You keep your distance, watching and learning. This adult mahi-mahi hunts differently than you do. It's more patient, more strategic. It doesn't chase every piece of prey that swims by. Instead, it waits for the right opportunity, then strikes with devastating precision. When it moves, it's like watching liquid lightning. But even this magnificent creature isn't invincible. As you watch, a larger predator appears. It's a marlin, sleek and deadly, with a bill that could skewer you without slowing down. The adult mahi-mahi sees it coming and reacts instantly, but the marlin is faster. The chase is brief and brutal. The mahi-mahi uses every trick it knows, darting and weaving, but the marlin's bill finds its mark. You don't stick around to see the outcome. The lesson is clear. No matter how big you get, how fast you become, how smart you are, there's always something bigger, faster, smarter. The ocean doesn't care about your accomplishments. It only cares about who's quick enough to survive the next encounter. This realization doesn't discourage you, though. If anything, it motivates you. You redouble your efforts to grow, to learn, to become everything you're capable of becoming. Every day brings new challenges, new opportunities, new threats. You're getting better at handling all of them. Your world is expanding too. You're no longer confined to the small area where you first learned to hunt. You're ranging farther, exploring new territories, following food sources across vast stretches of open ocean. Sometimes you travel alone, sometimes with others of your kind. Both have their advantages. When you're alone, you can move faster, change direction without having to coordinate with others, and you don't have to share your catches. But you're also more vulnerable. A lone mahi-mahi is an easier target than one that's part of a group. The trade-offs are constant, and you're learning to make these decisions based on the circumstances. The floating objects continue to be major features in your life. You've become expert at spotting them from a distance, at approaching them carefully, and at feeding efficiently while staying alert for danger. Some objects are better than others. The ones that have been in the water longer tend to have more established ecosystems, more diverse food sources. You've also learned that these objects attract your own kind. It's not uncommon to encounter other mahi-mahi at particularly good floating debris. Sometimes this leads to competition, sometimes to temporary cooperation. You're developing the social skills needed to navigate these interactions successfully. Your growth continues, relentless and consuming. Your body demands constant fuel, and you're becoming an increasingly efficient hunter to meet that demand. The small prey that once sustained you is no longer enough. You need bigger targets, more substantial meals. Your hunting style is evolving to match your capabilities. You're now approaching your first year of life, and the changes in your body are becoming impossible to ignore. That brilliant yellow is spreading across your sides like liquid gold, and the green on your back has deepened into something that catches the light in ways that make other fish take notice. Your dorsal fin has grown tall and dramatic, running almost the entire length of your back. You're starting to look dangerous, and that's exactly what you need. But looking dangerous and being dangerous are two different things. You're still learning the difference. A group of smaller yellowfin tuna crosses your path, and your instincts scream at you to attack. They're fast, but you're faster now. You could probably catch one. The question is whether you should try. You watch them for a moment, calculating the odds, measuring the risk against the reward. You decide to go for it. You accelerate from a dead stop to full speed in seconds, your powerful tail driving you forward like a living torpedo. The tuna scatter, but you've already picked your target. It's the one at the back, the one that hesitated just a fraction of a second too long. Your jaws snap shut around its midsection, and the fight is over before it really began. The taste of fresh tuna fills your mouth, rich and satisfying in a way that smaller prey never was. This is what you were built for. This is what all that growing and learning was leading to. You're no longer just trying to survive. You're starting to dominate your piece of the ocean. Your success doesn't go unnoticed. Other mahi-mahi in the area see what you've accomplished, and some of them start following you, not because you're the biggest or the strongest, but because you're proving to be good at finding food. In the ocean, that's the only leadership that matters. You don't ask for followers, and they don't ask permission to follow. It just happens. This new responsibility changes how you hunt. You can't just think about feeding yourself anymore. The group looks to you to find food for everyone, and if you fail, they'll find someone else to follow. The pressure is real, but so are the benefits. More eyes mean better spotting of both prey and predators. More bodies mean you can take on larger challenges. You encounter your first real test as a leader when the group comes across a massive school of sardines. They're everywhere, a silver cloud in the water that seems to stretch forever. It's more food than you've ever seen in one place, but it's also chaotic. Sardines move like a single organism, flowing and shifting in patterns that make individual targets almost impossible to track. You don't hesitate. You dive straight into the middle of the school, trusting your followers to do the same. The sardines explode outward in all directions, but there are so many that even their evasive maneuvers can't save them all. You snap up fish after fish, your jaws working like a machine. The other mahi-mahi are doing the same, and for a few minutes, it's a feeding frenzy, unlike anything you've experienced. But feeding frenzies attract attention. You're so focused on the sardines that you almost miss the shadow passing overhead. It's big, much bigger than anything you want to deal with right now. You look up and see the unmistakable silhouette of a large shark cruising just above the school. It's not moving fast, not attacking yet, but it's definitely interested in what's happening below. You make a decision that surprises even you. Instead of fleeing, you hold your ground. The other mahi-mahi look to you for guidance, and you give it to them through your actions. You slow your feeding, but don't stop. You keep one eye on the shark and continue hunting, showing your followers that controlled aggression is sometimes better than panic. The shark makes a lazy pass through the school, picking off a few sardines, but not committing to a full attack. It's testing the situation, just like you are. After a few tense minutes, it moves on, apparently deciding that the sardines aren't worth the energy. You've passed your first test as a leader, and the respect you see in your followers' eyes is worth more than the sardines you caught. Your hunting grounds are expanding as your confidence grows. You're no longer content to stay in the relatively safe waters where you grew up. The open ocean calls to you with its promise of bigger prey and greater challenges. Your followers come with you, trusting your judgment, even when it takes them far from anything familiar. This is where you encounter the flying fish in numbers you never imagined. They burst from the water in coordinated groups, their wing-like fins carrying them incredible distances before they crash back down. To most predators, this aerial escape is nearly impossible to counter, but you're not most predators. You've learned to read the patterns, to anticipate where they'll land. More importantly, you've learned to work with your followers to herd them. While some of the Mahi chase the flying fish from below, others position themselves where the fish are likely to come down. It's coordinated hunting at its finest, and the results speak for themselves. The flying fish are substantial meals, rich in the fats and proteins your growing body craves. Each successful hunt fuels another growth spurt, another leap forward in your development. You're approaching 3 feet in length now, with the bulk and power to back up your aggressive hunting style. But success brings new problems. The bigger you get, the more energy you need to maintain your size and speed. You can't afford to waste time on small prey anymore. Every hunt needs to be worth the effort, which means taking bigger risks for bigger rewards. It's a delicate balance, and getting it wrong could mean the difference between thriving and merely surviving. You discover this the hard way when you encounter a school of small tuna. They're perfect targets in theory, big enough to be worth catching, but small enough that you should be able to handle them easily. What you don't account for is their speed and coordination. These aren't the panicky sardines you've gotten used to hunting. These fish fight back. The attack starts well enough. You and your followers hit the school from multiple angles, just like you planned. But the tuna don't scatter the way you expected. Instead, they form a tight ball, using their numbers as protection, while the outer fish take turns darting out to snap at your flanks. It's not the chaotic feeding frenzy you're used to. It's a battle. One of the tuna manages to rake its teeth across your side, leaving a shallow but painful gash. You've been injured before, but never in a hunt that you initiated. The shock of it makes you hesitate for just a moment, and that moment is all the tuna need to reorganize their defense. Your followers are looking to you for direction, but you're not sure what to tell them. You make a choice that will define your leadership style for the rest of your life. Instead of retreating, you press the attack. You ignore the pain in your side and drive straight into the heart of the tuna school, using your size and speed to break up their formation. It's brutal and exhausting, but it works. The tuna can't maintain their defensive formation under that kind of pressure, and once they scatter, your followers are there to pick them off. The victory comes at a cost. You're wounded, tired, and several of your followers are injured as well. But you've learned something valuable about leadership and about yourself. Sometimes the only way forward is through, even when the price is higher than you want to pay. Your followers seem to understand this too, because their loyalty to you only grows stronger after the battle. Recovery takes time, but the ocean doesn't wait for anyone to heal. While your wounds close and your strength returns, you have to keep hunting, keep leading, keep growing. The smaller prey that once seemed beneath you becomes important again, not because you prefer it, but because it's what you can safely handle while you're not at full strength. During this vulnerable period, you encounter something that makes your blood run cold. It's another Mahi, but this one is massive, easily twice your size, with colors so intense they seem to pulse with their own light. This is what a fully mature bull mahi-mahi looks like, and seeing one up close makes you realize just how far you still have to go. The encounter is brief, but educational. The bull doesn't see you as a threat, barely acknowledges your existence as it cruises past. But you study every detail of its movement, its posture, its effortless dominance of the water around it. This is your future, if you can survive long enough to claim it. Your followers sense the shift in your behavior after this encounter. You become more focused, more driven. The casual hunting that sustained you before isn't enough anymore. You need to grow faster, get stronger, become more than what you are. The ocean is full of creatures like that bull mahi-mahi, and until you can match them, you'll always be looking over your shoulder. The urgency drives you to take bigger risks. You start hunting in areas you previously avoided, targeting prey species that you once considered too dangerous. Your followers adapt to your new aggressive style, or they find other leaders to follow. The group that stays with you is smaller, but more committed, more willing to take the chances that leadership demands. This new approach pays off when you encounter a lone wahoo. It's a sleek, powerful fish with a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth, and under normal circumstances, you'd give it a wide berth. But these aren't normal circumstances. You're no longer content to avoid challenges. You're actively seeking them out. The wahoo doesn't expect to be attacked by something smaller than itself, and that surprise is your biggest advantage. You hit it from behind and above, your jaws clamping down just behind its head, where your teeth can do the most damage. The wahoo thrashes violently, its powerful tail nearly breaking your grip, but you hold on with everything you have. The fight is savage and brief. The wahoo's speed advantage is negated by your ambush, and once you have it pinned, your superior jaw strength decides the outcome. When it finally goes still, you're breathing hard and bleeding from several cuts, but you've just taken down prey that most mahi-mahi your size wouldn't dare to challenge. Your followers watch the entire encounter with something approaching awe. You've just demonstrated that you're not content to follow the usual rules, that you're willing to push boundaries that others accept as absolute. It's a dangerous way to live, but it's also the only way to grow beyond what seems possible. The wahoo provides enough food to fuel another significant growth spurt. Your body responds to the rich protein by adding muscle mass and length at a rate that surprises even you. Within weeks, you're noticeably larger, and your increased size opens up new hunting opportunities that were previously beyond your reach. You start targeting larger schools of fish, using your size and the loyalty of your followers to take on challenges that would have been impossible just months ago. Each success builds on the last, creating a cycle of growth and achievement that accelerates your development far beyond what you achieved in your early life. But the ocean has a way of humbling those who become too confident. You learn this lesson when your group encounters a pod of dolphins. They're not hunting, just traveling, but their presence changes everything about the water around them. Fish scatter in all directions, not because the dolphins are attacking, but because everyone knows what dolphins are capable of when they decide to hunt. How you should retreat, should take your followers to safer waters. But something about the dolphins' casual dominance irritates you. You've worked hard to build your own reputation, to establish your place in the ocean's hierarchy. Seeing these mammals command such instant respect without even trying makes you want to prove that you deserve the same consideration. It's a stupid impulse, and you'll recognize it as such later. But in the moment, driven by pride and the need to maintain your leadership status, you make a decision that nearly costs you everything. Instead of retreating, you hold your ground. You position your group in the dolphin's path and wait to see what happens. What happens is a lesson in the difference between confidence and arrogance. The dolphins don't attack immediately. They don't need to. They simply adjust their formation to surround your group, moving with a coordination that makes your best hunting strategies look amateur by comparison. Within minutes, you and your followers are completely encircled by creatures that could tear you apart without breaking formation. The largest dolphin approaches you directly, and you can see intelligence in its eyes that goes far beyond anything you've encountered in a fish. It doesn't threaten you, doesn't make any aggressive moves. It just looks at you, and somehow that look communicates everything you need to know about how foolish you've been. Then, as suddenly as they surrounded you, the dolphins move on. They don't hurt you, don't even seem particularly interested in you. They just demonstrate their complete dominance of the situation and then continue on their way, leaving you and your followers shaken but unharmed. The lesson sticks with you long after the dolphins disappear. There are levels of power in the ocean that you haven't even begun to approach, and challenging them before you're ready is a form of suicide. You file this knowledge away for future reference, along with a healthy dose of humility that will serve you well in the challenges ahead. Your growth continues, but with a new awareness of your place in the larger ecosystem. You're becoming a formidable predator, but you're far from the apex of the food chain. Every day brings reminders of creatures bigger, faster, and more dangerous than you are. The key is learning to thrive in spite of these limitations, not because of their absence. You're now 18 months old, and the ocean has shaped you into something magnificent. Your body stretches over 4 feet long, your colors blaze with an intensity that makes smaller fish flee on sight, and your speed has reached levels that would have seemed impossible when you were drifting as a tiny larva. But with this power comes a new kind of hunger, not just for food, but for territory. The floating debris that once represented safety and abundance now feels too small for what you've become. You find yourself ranging farther from these objects, exploring the vast blue emptiness that stretches in every direction. Your followers are fewer now, not because you've lost your leadership skills, but because maintaining a group this far from reliable food sources requires a level of commitment that not all Mahi possess. The ones who remain with you are the elite, the fastest, the smartest, the most adaptable of your generation. Together, you form a hunting unit that strikes fear into prey species across hundreds of square miles of ocean. Your reputation precedes you now. Schools of fish scatter at your approach, not because they've seen you specifically, but because they've learned to recognize the signs of your presence. But reputation is a double-edged sword. The same dominance that makes you successful also makes you a target. Larger predators have started taking notice of your activities, and not all of them are content to simply avoid you. Some see your success as a challenge to their own authority, and challenges in the ocean are settled through violence. You encounter your first real rival when you're hunting near a massive patch of floating sargassum. The seaweed has been in the water long enough to develop its own ecosystem, complete with small fish, crustaceans, and all the food sources that make such areas irresistible to predators like you. You approach with your usual confidence, expecting the smaller fish to scatter, as they always do. Instead, you find the area already occupied by another Mahi. This one is your size, maybe slightly larger, with colors that rival your own in their intensity. It doesn't flee when it sees you coming. Instead, it positions itself between you and the best feeding spots, its posture making its intentions crystal clear. This is its territory, and you're not welcome. Your followers slow behind you, sensing the tension in the water. This isn't like the encounters you've had with smaller fish, or even with the dolphins. This is a direct challenge from an equal, and how you handle it will define your leadership for months to come. You could retreat, find another hunting ground, avoid the confrontation entirely. But something deep in your genetic programming rebels against that option. You accelerate toward the rival Mahi Mahi, your body language shifting from casual swimming to aggressive display. Your dorsal fin rises to its full height. Your colors intensify until they seem to glow with their own light, and your movements become sharp and angular. The message is unmistakable. You're not backing down. The rival responds in kind, its own colors flaring as it turns to face you head-on. For a moment, you circle each other like ancient gladiators, each looking for an opening, each measuring the other's strength and resolve. The smaller fish in the area have fled entirely, leaving just you, your rival, and the electric tension crackling through the water. The attack comes without warning. Your rival shoots forward like a living missile, its jaws gaping wide as it aims for your flank. You twist aside at the last second, feeling its teeth scrape across your scales without finding purchase. Your counterattack is immediate, a lightning-fast snap at its tail that misses by inches as it spins away from you. The battle that follows is unlike anything you've experienced. This isn't the clumsy thrashing of desperate prey or the coordinated defense of a school. This is strategic warfare between two apex predators, each using every advantage they possess: speed, agility, intelligence, experience. Everything is brought to bear in a fight that could easily end with one of you dead. You land the first significant blow, your teeth finding the soft flesh behind your rival's pectoral fin. The taste of blood fills the water, driving both of you to even greater aggression. Your rival retaliates by ramming you broadside, using its bulk to drive you away from the sargassum patch. The impact knocks the breath from your gills, but you recover quickly enough to avoid its follow-up attack. The fight rages across the floating seaweed, both of you using the terrain to your advantage. You dive beneath the sargassum canopy, using its cover to launch surprise attacks. Your rival counters by positioning itself above you, trying to pin you against the vegetation where your speed advantage would be negated. It's a deadly game of three-dimensional chess, and neither of you can afford to make a mistake. Your followers watch from a safe distance, ready to flee if the fight turns against you. They've invested their loyalty in your leadership, but survival trumps loyalty in the ocean. If you fall here, they'll need to find new protection quickly before some other predator decides they look like easy targets. The turning point comes when your rival makes a critical error. In its eagerness to press an advantage, it overextends itself during an attack, leaving its flank exposed for just a fraction of a second. You don't hesitate. Your jaws clamp down just behind its gills, in the spot where major blood vessels run close to the surface. Your teeth penetrate deep, and you feel your rival's struggles weaken as blood loss takes its toll. But you don't kill it. Something holds you back, some instinct that tells you death isn't necessary here. Instead, you maintain your grip until your rival stops fighting, until it hangs motionless in your jaws. Only then do you release it, watching as it slowly swims away, defeated but alive. The sargassum patch is yours now, and everyone in the area knows it. Your followers return cautiously, their respect for you clearly elevated by what they've witnessed. You've just proven that you can hold your own against any mahi-mahi in these waters, and that knowledge changes how they see you. You're no longer just a successful hunter they choose to follow. You're a proven warrior, worthy of their complete loyalty. The victory feast that follows is one of the most satisfying of your life. The small fish hiding in the sargassum are plentiful and easy to catch, but more importantly, they taste like triumph. Every bite reinforces your new status, your claim to this prime hunting ground. You've crossed a threshold from which there's no return. Word of your victory spreads through the ocean's invisible communication network. Fish talk in their way, and news of a successful territorial challenge travels fast. Other mahi-mahi in the area begin to give you a wider berth, recognizing that you're no longer just another predator, but a force to be reckoned with. The respect is intoxicating, but it also brings new responsibilities. Your territory now extends far beyond a single patch of floating debris. You patrol vast stretches of open ocean, your presence alone enough to maintain order among the smaller predators in your domain. It's exhausting work, but it's also incredibly rewarding. The best hunting spots are yours by right of conquest, and the constant supply of high-quality food fuels continued growth that pushes you toward true maturity. But territory is meaningless without the ability to defend it, and challenges to your authority come regularly. Some are from young mahi-mahi trying to make names for themselves, others from established rivals testing your resolve. Each fight teaches you something new about combat, about strategy, about the delicate balance between aggression and restraint that separates successful leaders from dead ones. You develop a reputation for measured violence. You don't kill unnecessarily, but you make sure every challenger understands the consequences of failure. A torn fin here, a deep gash there, enough to establish dominance without wasting the energy required for execution. It's a calculated approach that serves you well, building fear without creating the kind of blood feud that could consume your entire life. Your followers multiply as news of your success spreads. And younger mahi-mahi seek you out, hoping to learn from your example and share in your prosperity. You're selective about who you accept, choosing only those who demonstrate the skill and loyalty necessary to contribute to the group's success. Quality matters more than quantity when you're operating at this level. The group dynamics become more complex as your numbers grow. You have lieutenants now, experienced fighters who help maintain order and coordinate hunts. There's a hierarchy based on size, skill, and proven loyalty, but ultimate authority rests with you. It's a position you've earned through combat and cunning, and you guard it jealously. Your hunting strategies evolve to accommodate the larger group. Simple ambush tactics give way to elaborate coordinated attacks involving multiple waves of attackers. You learn to use your followers like living weapons, positioning them precisely to maximize the effectiveness of each assault. The results are spectacular. Entire schools of fish decimated in minutes, feeding frenzies that leave the water clouded with scales and blood. But success breeds complacency, and complacency in the ocean is often fatal. You learn this lesson when your group encounters a school of large yellowfin tuna. They're substantial fish, each one representing a significant meal, and your confidence leads you to attack without the usual careful reconnaissance. It's a mistake that nearly costs you everything. The tuna aren't the passive victims you expected. They're organized, experienced, and when threatened, they fight back with a coordination that matches your own. Your initial attack, which should have scattered them into manageable fragments, instead triggers a defensive response that catches your entire group off guard. Suddenly, you're not hunting. You're in a pitched battle with opponents who refuse to play the role of prey. The tuna form a tight formation, their sleek bodies creating an almost impenetrable wall of muscle and teeth. When your followers try to break through, they meet coordinated resistance that turns predators into targets. Several of your group are injured in the first few minutes of combat, their confidence shattered by opponents who fight back with unexpected ferocity. You realize quickly that this isn't a hunt anymore, it's a war. The tuna have decided that running isn't an option, and they're prepared to fight to the death rather than surrender to your assault. It's a level of resistance you've never encountered from prey species, and it forces you to adapt your tactics on the fly. You withdraw your followers, regrouping at a safe distance while you reassess the situation. The tuna maintain their defensive formation, but you can see the strain it's putting on them. Holding that kind of organization requires enormous energy, and fish that are focused on defense can't feed effectively. Time is on your side if you're patient enough to use it. The siege that follows lasts for hours. You keep your group at the edge of the tuna's defensive perimeter, launching occasional probing attacks that test their resolve without committing to full assault. Each probe reveals weaknesses in their formation, gaps that open and close as tired fish struggle to maintain their positions. Your followers grow restless as the standoff continues. They're used to quick, decisive victories, not these prolonged battles of attrition. Some begin to drift away, seeking easier prey elsewhere. You let them go. Loyalty that evaporates under pressure isn't worth maintaining anyway. The ones who stay are the true believers, the fish who trust your judgment, even when they don't understand your strategy. The breakthrough comes when one of the younger tuna breaks formation. Exhaustion, hunger, or simple panic causes it to swim just far enough from the group to become vulnerable. You're waiting for exactly this moment, and your response is instantaneous. You hit the separated fish like a guided missile, your jaws clamping down before it can retreat to safety. The tuna's formation collapses as panic spreads through their ranks. The disciplined defense that held you at bay for hours crumbles in seconds as individual fish choose flight over fight. Your followers swarm through the gaps, turning the organized school into scattered prey. The battle becomes a rout, then a massacre. When the feeding frenzy finally ends, the water around you is thick with blood and scales. Your group has taken casualties, but the victory is overwhelming. Each survivor has gorged themselves on high-quality protein, and the shared experience of overcoming such formidable opponents bonds them to you more tightly than any previous hunt. But the victory comes with a sobering realization. If tuna can organize effective resistance, what about larger, more intelligent predators? The ocean is full of creatures that make yellowfin tuna look small and helpless, and if you continue growing your territory and ambitions, you'll inevitably encounter them. The question isn't whether you'll face greater challenges, it's whether you'll be ready when they arrive. Your answer comes sooner than expected. While your group is still recovering from the tuna battle, a new presence enters your territory. It's subtle at first, a change in the behavior of smaller fish, a tension in the water that speaks of nearby danger. Your followers sense it too, their movements becoming nervous and erratic as some ancient fear takes hold. You see it before they do, a dark shape moving through the blue depths below. At first, it's just a shadow, too distant to identify with certainty. But as it rises toward you, its true nature becomes unmistakable. It's a shark, and not just any shark, it's a mako, one of the fastest predators in the ocean. Your followers scatter immediately, their courage evaporating in the face of this ultimate predator. You can't blame them. Every instinct they possess screams at them to flee, and flight is often the only rational response to a mako encounter. But you don't run. Something deeper than instinct holds you in place, a need to understand what you're truly capable of when pushed to your absolute limits. The mako approaches, with the casual confidence of an apex predator. It doesn't rush, doesn't show any sign of aggression or excitement. To it, you're just another fish in its domain. Interesting, perhaps, because of your size and colors, but not particularly threatening. That casual dismissal ignites something primal in your brain, a rage that overwhelms your survival instincts. You charge the shark head-on, your speed building to levels that would have been impossible just months ago. The Mako's reaction is pure surprise. Prey doesn't usually attack sharks, especially not with such obvious intent to do damage. Its lazy approach becomes an urgent, evasive maneuver as it realizes you're not fleeing like a sensible fish should. The collision, when it comes, is devastating for both of you. Your jaws find purchase on the shark's flank, your teeth penetrating its tough hide and drawing blood. But the Mako's retaliation is swift and brutal. Its own jaws snap shut on your midsection, and suddenly you're locked in a death grip with one of the ocean's most efficient killers. The battle that follows defies everything you thought you knew about the natural order. Sharks are supposed to be untouchable, the undisputed rulers of their domain. But here you are, matching one blow for blow, proving that the right combination of speed, aggression, and sheer determination can level even the most uneven playing field. The Mako's size advantage is offset by your superior maneuverability. While it relies on brute strength and intimidation, you use every trick you've learned in months of territorial combat. You twist and roll using your flexibility to avoid its most devastating attacks while landing precision strikes of your own. Both of you are bleeding freely now, your blood mixing in the water and attracting the attention of scavengers from miles around. But neither of you backs down. This has become more than a simple predator-prey encounter. It's a test of will between two apex predators, each refusing to acknowledge the other's superiority. The end comes suddenly. The Mako, perhaps weakened by blood loss or simply exhausted by the unexpected resistance, makes a crucial error in timing. Its attack comes a fraction of a second too slow, and you're able to get inside its guard. Your jaws clamp down on its throat, not with enough force to kill immediately, but with enough pressure to make your point clear. For a moment, you hang there together, predator and prey locked in an embrace that could go either way. Then, incredibly, the Mako goes limp, not dead, but defeated. It's acknowledged your dominance in the only way that matters in the ocean, by surrendering the field of battle. You release your grip slowly, watching as the shark sinks into the depths. It will survive, you think, but it will remember this encounter. More importantly, every creature that witnessed the fight will remember it too. You've just done something that should have been impossible. You've defeated a shark in single combat. Your followers return cautiously, their awe evident in every movement. You've transcended their understanding of what a Mahi can accomplish. In their eyes, you're no longer just a successful predator or even a territorial champion. You're something approaching legend, a fish that can challenge the ocean's ultimate predators and emerge victorious. The victory changes you in ways that go beyond simple confidence. You've proven to yourself and to every creature in your territory that the traditional hierarchies of ocean predation aren't absolute. With enough skill, determination, and willingness to risk everything, even the most established order can be challenged and overturned. Your territory expands exponentially in the weeks following the shark encounter. Word spreads through the ocean's communication networks, carried by fish who witnessed the battle or heard about it from others. Areas that were previously controlled by larger predators suddenly become available as those predators choose discretion over confrontation with the Mahi who defeated a Mako. But expansion brings new responsibilities. and new dangers. Your territory now covers hundreds of square miles of open ocean, far more than you can patrol effectively, even with your growing number of followers. You have to delegate authority, creating a network of lieutenants who can maintain order in distant regions while you focus on the most critical areas. The administrative aspects of leadership prove almost as challenging as the physical ones. You have to mediate disputes between followers, make decisions about resource allocation, and maintain the delicate balance between expansion and consolidation that keeps your empire growing without overextending your resources. Your followers now number in the dozens, a small army of Mahi who look to you for guidance in everything from hunting strategy to territorial disputes. Each one represents both an asset and a liability, additional strength in battle, but also another mouth to feed and another ego to manage. Leadership at this scale requires skills you never knew you possessed. The hunting strategies you employ now would have been impossible with smaller numbers. You can coordinate attacks involving multiple groups, approaching from different angles, create elaborate ambush scenarios that span miles of ocean, and maintain persistent pressure on prey species that would have been untouchable by smaller hunting parties. Your success attracts attention from unexpected quarters. Other apex predators begin seeking you out, not for combat, but for negotiation. Territorial boundaries that were once maintained through constant conflict become formalized agreements based on mutual respect and shared interests. You're not just a predator anymore. You're a political force in the ocean's complex ecosystem. But with every victory, every expansion of territory, every demonstration of power, you're moving closer to a confrontation that will define the rest of your life. The ocean's true apex predators have been watching your rise with growing interest, and some of them are beginning to see you as more than just an unusually successful fish. You're becoming a threat to the established order, and threats in the ocean are dealt with decisively. The challenge, when it comes, arrives in the form of something you've never encountered before. It's bigger than the mako you defeated, more intelligent than any fish you've fought, and it moves through the water with a confidence that makes your own achievements seem insignificant by comparison. This is what happens when you climb high enough up the food chain. Eventually, you encounter something that makes you remember your place in the natural order. But that's a story for another day. For now, you rule your corner of the ocean with an iron jaw, your reputation spreading like ripples across the vast blue expanse. You've achieved something remarkable. You've transcended the limitations of your species and become something approaching a legend. The question isn't whether you can maintain this position, but whether you're prepared for what comes next when the ocean decides to test your resolve one final time. The water around you has changed. You're no longer in the warm, familiar currents where you built your empire. Something deeper, colder, more ancient flows beneath you now. Your followers sense it too, the way they cluster closer together, the nervous flicking of their fins, the constant scanning of the depths below. You've moved into waters where the rules are different, where your reputation means nothing to creatures that have ruled these depths for millions of years. Your territory has grown so vast that maintaining it requires constant movement. You can't simply claim a patch of floating debris and defend it anymore. Your domain spans shipping lanes, deep ocean trenches, and migration corridors used by species you've never encountered. Each new area brings different challenges, different prey species, different threats that test your adaptability in ways you never imagined. The abundance is intoxicating. Schools of fish that would have fed your original group for weeks now barely satisfy your current following for a day. Squid rise from the depths, in numbers that turn the water black with ink. Flying fish launch themselves in coordinated waves that stretch to the horizon. You're living in an oceanic paradise, but paradise in the ocean always comes with a price. Your hunting techniques have evolved beyond simple predation into something approaching art. You can read the currents like a map, predicting exactly where prey will be hours before they arrive. Your followers move with military precision, each knowing their role in elaborate strategies that unfold across miles of open water. When you strike, it's with the coordinated efficiency of a natural disaster. But efficiency has made you lazy in some ways. The constant success, the endless supply of food, the unwavering loyalty of your followers. It's created a bubble of invincibility that insulates you from the harsh realities that govern most ocean life. You've forgotten what it feels like to be truly hungry, truly desperate, truly afraid that forgetting is about to cost you dearly. The first sign of trouble comes from the behavior of your prey. Fish that should scatter at your approach instead form defensive formations you've never seen before. Squid that normally flee to the depths begin moving in coordinated groups, their tentacles intertwined in patterns that speak of intelligence far beyond anything you've attributed to them. Even the smaller predators in your territory start acting strangely, as if they're preparing for something you can't see. Your lieutenants bring reports of unusual activity throughout your domain, massive shapes moving through the deep water, always just beyond the range of clear vision. Strange sounds echoing through the ocean depths, calls and responses in frequencies that make your bones vibrate. Most disturbing of all, the disappearance of several patrol groups that simply vanished without sending any distress signals. You dismiss these reports initially. Your empire has grown so large that managing it requires delegation, and delegation always leads to exaggeration and miscommunication. Probably just nervous followers jumping at shadows, seeing threats where none exist. You've dealt with every challenge the ocean has thrown at you so far. What could possibly be different about this one? The answer comes when you're hunting near the edge of your territory, pursuing a school of bonito that has been leading you on a chase for the better part of an hour. They're fast, but not fast enough to escape you permanently. You're gaining ground steadily when they suddenly dive deep, heading for waters so dark you can barely make out their shapes. Against your better judgment, you follow. The pressure changes as you descend, your body adjusting automatically to the increasing depth. Your followers string out behind you, some struggling to keep up as the water grows colder and darker. The bonito are still ahead, but their movements have changed. They're not fleeing randomly anymore. They're heading somewhere specific, as if they have a destination in mind. That's when you see it. Rising from the depths below, moving with a grace that defies its enormous size, is something that makes your victory over the mako seem like a minor scuffle between juveniles. It's a giant bluefin tuna, but not just any bluefin. This is a fish that has grown beyond the normal limits of its species, a creature that has survived long enough to become something approaching mythical. The bluefin is easily 3 times your size, its body a perfect fusion of power and hydrodynamics. Its colors are muted, but somehow more impressive than your own brilliant display. The deep blue of its back seems to absorb light rather than reflect it, while its silver sides gleam like polished metal. When it moves, the water around it seems to bend to its will. Your followers freeze in place, instinctively recognizing the presence of something beyond their ability to challenge, but you can't stop. The chase has carried you too far, committed you too completely. The bluefin rises to meet you, and you realize with growing horror that the bonito weren't fleeing from you at all. They were leading you into a trap. The impact when it comes nearly breaks your spine. The bluefin doesn't attack with the wild aggression of a shark or the calculated precision of another mahi-mahi. It simply accelerates, using its massive bulk like a living battering ram. You're knocked sideways through the water, your vision blurring as you struggle to regain your orientation. Before you can recover, it hits you again, this time from below, driving you toward the surface with such force that you briefly break through into the air above. You crash back down into a world that has suddenly become alien and hostile, where your speed advantage means nothing against an opponent that can match your acceleration while carrying 10 times your mass. The bluefin doesn't pursue you when you try to retreat. It doesn't need to. It simply positions itself between you and your followers, its presence alone enough to scatter your carefully organized group. Fish that have followed you into battles against sharks and territorial rivals flee without looking back, their loyalty evaporating in the face of true apex predation. You're alone now, bloodied and disoriented, facing an opponent that represents everything you thought you had surpassed. The bluefin regards you with eyes that hold intelligence and experience far beyond your own. It's not angry, not aggressive. It's simply demonstrating the natural order that you've been pretending doesn't apply to you. The lesson is brutal but clear. There are levels of power in the ocean that exist beyond anything you've encountered, hierarchies so absolute that challenging them is not brave, but simply foolish. The bluefin could kill you easily, but it doesn't need to. Your humiliation is complete without death, your empire shattered by the simple demonstration of superior force. You limp away from the encounter, your body aching from impacts that came close to breaking bones. Your followers are scattered across miles of ocean, each making their own decision about whether to rejoin your group or seek protection elsewhere. The territory you spent months building is effectively abandoned, its borders meaningless, without the force necessary to defend them. The days that follow are the darkest of your adult life. You're alone again for the first time in over a year, reduced to scavenging for scraps and avoiding the territories of predators you once considered equals. Your colors, once brilliant enough to be seen from hundreds of yards away, fade to the drab greens and yellows of a fish trying not to be noticed. But the ocean teaches harsh lessons for a reason. Failure that doesn't kill you becomes wisdom, and wisdom applied correctly becomes strength. You spend weeks analyzing what went wrong, replaying the encounter with the bluefin, until you understand every mistake you made. Overconfidence, poor reconnaissance, failure to recognize the signs of a trap. Each error becomes a lesson that will serve you better in the future. Slowly, carefully, you begin to rebuild. Not the vast empire you once commanded, but something smaller and more sustainable. You recruit followers selectively, choosing quality over quantity. You establish territory conservatively, taking only what you can effectively defend. Most importantly, you develop the humility necessary to recognize threats before they become deadly encounters. Your new approach attracts a different kind of follower. Instead of young mahi-mahi seeking easy success, you draw experienced fish who understand the value of competent leadership. Your inner circle becomes smaller but more capable, each member chosen for specific skills rather than simple loyalty. It's a leaner organization, but also a more effective one. The hunting strategies you develop now reflect this newfound wisdom. Instead of the overwhelming force you once preferred, you employ stealth and precision. Your attacks are surgical strikes, designed to minimize risk while maximizing effectiveness. You avoid confrontations you can't win, but when you do fight, you fight to end conflicts quickly and decisively. Your reputation begins to recover, but it's different now. Instead of the flashy dominance that characterized your earlier success, you're known for reliability and tactical brilliance. Other predators respect you not because they fear your aggression, but because they recognize your competence. It's a subtler kind of power, but ultimately more sustainable. The territory you control now is a fraction of your former empire, but it's infinitely more secure. Every boundary is carefully chosen for defensive advantage. Every hunting ground is selected for both abundance and escape routes. Every alliance is built on mutual benefit rather than intimidation. You've learned to work with the ocean's natural systems instead of trying to dominate them. Your followers notice the change in your behavior, and it affects them too. The reckless bravado that once characterized your group gives way to professional competence. Hunts are planned with military precision, executed with minimal waste, and concluded without unnecessary risks. Success becomes routine rather than dramatic, but routine success builds the kind of strength that survives long-term challenges. The ocean begins to feel different around you. Instead of a battlefield to be conquered, it becomes a complex system to be navigated. You start paying attention to subtleties you once ignored, the migration patterns of prey species, the territorial boundaries of other predators, the seasonal changes that affect food availability. Knowledge becomes your primary weapon, more valuable than speed or strength. Your encounters with other apex predators change as well. Instead of the confrontational approach that nearly got you killed, you develop diplomatic skills. You learn to recognize when retreat is the better part of valor, when negotiation can achieve better results than combat, when showing respect actually increases rather than decreases your standing. The bluefin that humbled you becomes a fixture in your consciousness, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a reminder of your place in the larger order. You occasionally spot it in the distance, and each sighting reinforces the lessons you learned during that devastating encounter. There are forces in the ocean that cannot be challenged directly, only respected and avoided. But avoidance doesn't mean surrender. You're still growing, still learning, still becoming something more than what you were. The difference is that now you're doing it intelligently, building strength in ways that don't invite the kind of retaliation that destroyed your first empire. You're playing a longer game, one that accounts for the realities of oceanic politics. Your followers begin to attract followers of their own as your reputation for competent leadership spreads. You don't actively recruit these newcomers, but you don't turn them away either. Each new member is evaluated carefully, their skills assessed, their loyalty tested through progressively more challenging assignments. Only the best are allowed to stay, and the best keep getting better. The hunting techniques you develop with this elite force push the boundaries of what Mahi can accomplish. You learn to coordinate attacks across vast distances, using the ocean's natural currents to position your forces with perfect timing. Your strikes become legendary for their precision, entire schools of prey fish eliminated without a single casualty among your followers. But you never forget the lessons of humility the ocean taught you. No matter how successful your hunts, how loyal your followers, how secure your territory, you remain acutely aware that bigger, stronger, smarter predators are always watching. The key to long-term survival isn't avoiding their attention entirely. That's impossible in the interconnected world of ocean predation, but managing it carefully. You develop intelligence networks that span your territory and beyond. Smaller fish, grateful for protection from larger predators, serve as your eyes and ears throughout the region. They report on the movements of potential threats, the availability of food sources, the political dynamics that affect everyone in the ecosystem. Information becomes your most valuable resource. This intelligence proves its worth when you learn of a massive convergence forming hundreds of miles away. Multiple species of large predators are gathering around what appears to be an unprecedented concentration of prey. It's the kind of feeding opportunity that comes along once in a decade, but it's also exactly the sort of situation where territorial boundaries break down and violence becomes inevitable. Your first instinct is to avoid the area entirely. The concentration of apex predators virtually guarantees conflict, and conflict with creatures of that caliber is exactly what you've learned to prevent. But the intelligence reports keep coming in, each one describing food availability that defies belief. Schools of fish so dense they darken the water for miles, squid populations that rise from the depths in numbers that haven't been seen in living memory. The decision to investigate represents everything you've learned about balancing risk and opportunity. You don't charge in blindly as you might have in your younger days. Instead, you approach carefully, using your intelligence network to map the positions of other predators and identify safe corridors through the dangerous waters. What you find when you arrive changes your understanding of oceanic ecosystems forever. The convergence isn't random. It's been triggered by a unique combination of currents, temperature, and seasonal migrations that has created a temporary paradise in the middle of the deep ocean. Fish that normally avoid each other are feeding side by side, their usual territorial instincts overridden by the abundance surrounding them. But the paradise is also a war zone. The concentration of prey has attracted every major predator within 1,000 miles, and the normal rules of territorial behavior have broken down completely. Sharks cruise through schools of tuna, marlin hunt alongside dolphins, and species that are usually enemies cooperate in temporary alliances based on mutual advantage. You position your group at the edge of the feeding frenzy, close enough to take advantage of the abundance, but far enough away to retreat if necessary. It's a delicate balance that requires constant adjustment as the dynamics of the convergence shift throughout the day. Predators come and go, alliances form and dissolve, and the entire ecosystem exists in a state of controlled chaos. Your followers feast like they've never feasted before, but you remain vigilant. This kind of opportunity inevitably attracts the attention of the ocean's ultimate predators, and when they arrive, the feeding frenzy will become something far more dangerous. You've learned to recognize the signs of their approach, the subtle changes in water pressure, the nervous behavior of smaller predators, the way prey species suddenly become more alert despite the abundance of food. The first sign comes as a vibration felt rather than heard, a low-frequency pulse that seems to emanate from the depths below. Your followers feel it too, their feeding becoming more frantic as ancient instincts warn them of approaching danger. You signal for them to prepare for immediate withdrawal, but before they can organize themselves, the source of the vibration reveals itself. Rising from the abyss like a living mountain comes something that makes even the giant bluefin seem small by comparison. It's a creature so massive that its species is more legend than reality to most ocean dwellers. A deep-water giant that emerges from the depths only when prey concentrations reach truly extraordinary levels. This is what the convergence has been building toward, not just a feeding opportunity, but a summoning call for the ocean's most ancient and powerful inhabitants. Your followers scatter without waiting for orders, their survival instincts overriding loyalty and discipline. You don't blame them. Facing a creature of this magnitude requires the kind of experience that none of them possess. Even you, with all your hard-won wisdom about oceanic hierarchies, feel the primal terror that comes from encountering something so far beyond your ability to challenge that it might as well be a force of nature. But instead of fleeing like your followers, you find yourself mesmerized by the creature's sheer presence. This is what the ocean can produce when given enough time and space, not just a predator, but an ecosystem unto itself. Smaller fish live symbiotically on its massive body, cleaning parasites and feeding on scraps that fall from its feeding. It moves through the water with the ponderous grace of a living island, reshaping the currents around it through pure mass. The feeding, when it begins, is unlike anything you've ever witnessed. The creature doesn't hunt in any recognizable sense. It simply opens its cavernous mouth and allows the ocean's bounty to flow in. Fish, squid, plankton, everything within its path becomes food. The process is so efficient, so overwhelming in its scope, that it reduces all other predation to insignificance by comparison. You watch from a safe distance as the creature feeds, your mind struggling to process the implications of what you're seeing. This is the true apex of oceanic predation, a level of power so absolute that it exists outside the normal hierarchies you've spent your life navigating. Everything you've achieved, every victory you've won, every territory you've claimed, it all becomes meaningless in the presence of such overwhelming force. But as you watch, something unexpected happens. The creature, having fed to satisfaction, begins to descend back toward the depths. As it sinks, it leaves behind a wake of disrupted water and scattered prey. The temporary ecosystem that formed around its feeding begins to dissolve, but not disappear. Instead, it transforms into something new, a feeding opportunity scaled to the abilities of lesser predators. This is your moment, not to challenge the impossible, but to capitalize on the opportunities that power creates. You signal to your scattered followers, calling them back from their hiding places. The fear they felt was justified, but the danger has passed. What remains is exactly the kind of calculated risk that has defined your mature approach to ocean life. Your followers return cautiously, still shaken by their encounter with true oceanic power. But they trust your judgment, and when you lead them toward the disrupted feeding ground, they follow. The prey species are disorganized, confused by their own narrow escape from being consumed. They're vulnerable in ways that skilled predators like your group can exploit, without risking the kind of catastrophic confrontation that just concluded. The hunt that follows is one of the most successful of your career. Your followers, motivated by their recent brush with mortality, fight with a precision and intensity that transforms the disrupted ecosystem into a perfectly orchestrated feeding frenzy. Every technique you've developed, every lesson you've learned, comes together in a display of predatory excellence that leaves the water clouded with evidence of your success. But even as you feed, even as you watch your followers gorge themselves on the abundance around them, your mind keeps returning to that moment when the true apex predator revealed itself. You've spent your entire adult life climbing the oceanic hierarchy, each victory taking you higher up the food chain. Today, you've seen the summit of that chain, and you understand with perfect clarity that it will always remain beyond your reach. The realization is both humbling and liberating. Humbling because it definitively establishes the limits of your ambitions. Liberating because it frees you from the endless cycle of conquest and territorial expansion that has defined your recent years. You can be successful, even dominant, without needing to challenge forces that exist on a completely different scale. Your followers finish feeding and begin to organize themselves for the journey back to your territory. They're different now, changed by their encounter with ultimate power, just as you were changed by your encounter with the giant bluefin. The experience has given them a perspective that will make them better predators and more reliable followers. They understand now that strength has limits, and that understanding those limits is the beginning of true wisdom. The journey home takes several days, and during that time, you have the opportunity to process everything you've learned. The ocean is vast beyond imagination, filled with wonders and terrors that most creatures never encounter. You've been privileged to see more than most, to climb higher in the hierarchy than your species typically manages. But you've also learned that privilege comes with responsibility to yourself, to your followers, and to the complex ecosystem that sustains all ocean life. Your territory, when you finally reach it, feels smaller than it did when you left. Not because it has actually changed, but because your perspective has expanded. You see it now not as a kingdom to be ruled, but as a home to be maintained. The difference is subtle, but profound, affecting every decision you make about hunting, territory defense, and follower management. Your followers sense this change in your attitude, and it affects them as well. The reckless aggression that once characterized your group continues to give way to professional competence. You become known throughout your region not for the territories you've conquered or the battles you've won, but for the stability and prosperity you provide to those under your protection. This reputation attracts a different kind of attention from other predators. Instead of challenges and territorial disputes, you begin receiving requests for cooperation and alliance. Smaller predator groups seek your protection in exchange for intelligence and support. Larger predators offer non-aggression pacts that benefit everyone involved. So, you're becoming a diplomatic force in oceanic politics, using negotiation and mutual benefit to achieve what you once sought through combat. The transformation is gradual but undeniable. You're evolving from a conquering predator into something more complex, a leader whose influence extends far beyond the reach of teeth and fins. Your success becomes measured not in territories controlled or enemies defeated, but in the prosperity and security of the ecosystem you help maintain. But even as you embrace this new role, you never forget the lessons that brought you to this point. The ocean is still dangerous, still full of creatures that can end your life in an instant. The difference is that now you navigate those dangers with wisdom rather than bravado, avoiding unnecessary conflicts while remaining prepared for unavoidable ones. Your physical growth has slowed, but your development continues in other ways. You're learning to read the ocean's moods, to predict changes in weather and current that affect everything from prey availability to predator behavior. This knowledge makes you valuable to other creatures in ways that go beyond simple physical dominance. As your second year of life draws to a close, you find yourself reflecting on the journey that brought you to this point. From a helpless larva drifting in the currents to a respected leader in one of the ocean's most complex ecosystems, you've experienced transformations that would have seemed impossible when you first learned to hunt. But the most important transformation has been internal, the development of wisdom to match your physical capabilities. The ocean around you continues to change, its rhythms as eternal and unpredictable as ever. New challenges will arise, new opportunities will present themselves, and new lessons will demand to be learned. But you face the future with confidence, born of experience, knowing that whatever comes next, you have the skills and wisdom necessary to not just survive, but to thrive in the vast blue world that has shaped you into what you've become. Your story is far from over. The ocean has more lessons to teach, more challenges to present, more opportunities to explore, but you're ready for whatever comes next, secure in the knowledge that you've found your place in the complex hierarchy of oceanic life. You're no longer fighting against the natural order, You've become part of it, a vital component in the endless cycle of predation and survival that defines existence in the deep blue sea. Your territory has become a crossroads where multiple ocean currents converge, creating a natural highway for migrating species. This positioning gives you access to prey that most mahi-mahi never encounter, but it also means constant vigilance. The same currents that bring food also carry threats from distant waters, predators following the same migration routes you've learned to exploit. The intelligence network you've built pays dividends every day. A juvenile yellowtail reports unusual activity near the northern boundary of your territory. 2 separate sources confirm the presence of a large predator moving through the area, something big enough to scatter entire schools of bonito. Your followers look to you for guidance, but this time you don't rush toward the threat. Experience has taught you the value of patience. You dispatch your most reliable scouts to gather more information while positioning your main force defensively. The reports that come back paint a disturbing picture. It's not just one large predator, but several moving in loose coordination. Worse, they're not hunting randomly. They're systematically clearing prey species from specific areas as if they're preparing the ground for something larger. Your first instinct is to avoid the entire situation. You've learned the hard way that some battles aren't worth fighting, regardless of the potential rewards. But as more reports come in, a pattern emerges that changes everything. The predators aren't just hunting, they're herding. They're driving massive schools of fish toward a specific location, concentrating prey in ways that suggest coordination far beyond normal predator behavior. The location they're targeting sits squarely in the middle of your territory. Whatever they're planning, it's going to happen in your backyard, whether you participate or not. The choice isn't whether to get involved, but how to manage your involvement to maximize benefit while minimizing risk. It's exactly the kind of complex decision-making that has defined your mature approach to ocean politics. You call in your lieutenants for a strategy session, something that would have been impossible in your younger, more impulsive days. Each brings their own perspective based on their area of expertise. Your intelligence specialist provides detailed maps of predator movements. Your hunting coordinator analyzes the prey concentrations being created. Your territorial defense expert evaluates the strategic implications of allowing such a large operation to proceed in your waters. The picture that emerges is both threatening and opportunistic. The coordinated predators are creating what amounts to a temporary feeding ground of unprecedented scale. The concentration of prey will attract every major predator within hundreds of miles, turning your territory into a battleground. But if managed correctly, it could also provide feeding opportunities that would sustain your group for months. Your decision reflects everything you've learned about balancing risk and reward. Instead of trying to stop the operation or flee from it, you choose to participate on your own terms. You'll allow the herding to continue while positioning your forces to take advantage of the resulting concentration without getting caught up in the inevitable conflicts between larger predators. The positioning requires delicate timing. Too early, and you'll be seen as a threat by the coordinating predators. Too late, and the best opportunities will be claimed by others. You wait until the herding operation reaches its final phase, then move your group into carefully selected positions around the periphery of the target area. What unfolds over the next several hours exceeds even your expanded understanding of oceanic predation. The coordinated predators, a mix of large sharks, billfish, and tuna, drive enormous schools of smaller fish into a natural basin formed by underwater topography. The result is a concentration of prey so dense that the water itself seems to writhe with movement. Your followers watch in fascination as predators that normally compete for territory work together with military precision. Each species plays a specific role in the operation, their natural abilities combined to create something far more effective than any individual effort could achieve. It's a masterclass in cooperative hunting that redefines your understanding of what's possible in ocean ecosystems. But the cooperation is temporary and fragile. As soon as the prey concentration reaches its maximum density, the alliance begins to fracture. Individual predators start claiming sections of the feeding ground for themselves. Territorial disputes erupt between species that were cooperating just minutes before. The organized operation degenerates into a chaotic free-for-all that turns the water red with blood. This is your moment. While the larger predators battle each other for prime positions, you lead your group in a series of precise strikes at the edges of the concentration. Your targets are the schools of fish trying to escape the main battle, prey that's been overlooked by predators focused on the larger prizes. It's exactly the kind of opportunistic hunting that has made your group successful. Your followers execute the plan flawlessly, their movements coordinated by months of training and combat experience. Each strike is calculated to maximize food capture while minimizing exposure to the larger conflicts raging nearby. Within an hour, your group has secured enough food to last for weeks, all without engaging in a single, direct confrontation with the apex predators dominating the main feeding ground. But as you watch the battle continue, you notice something that makes your blood run cold. One of the predators involved in the original coordination is the giant bluefin that humbled you months ago. It moves through the chaos with the same overwhelming presence you remember, its massive bulk allowing it to claim whatever territory it chooses without challenge from any other predator. The bluefin's participation explains the sophisticated level of coordination you witnessed. This wasn't just a random alliance of hungry predators. It was an operation planned and executed by one of the ocean's most intelligent apex predators. The other species involved were essentially following its lead, whether they realized it or not. Your respect for the creature increases even further as you watch it navigate the political complexities of the feeding frenzy. It takes what it needs without excess aggression, maintains territorial boundaries through presence rather than violence, and allows smaller predators to feed in areas it doesn't consider critical. It's a demonstration of power so absolute that it doesn't need to be exercised directly. But the bluefin's presence also represents an opportunity for a different kind of learning. You position yourself where you can observe its behavior without being noticed, studying its techniques like a student watching a master. Every movement, every decision, every interaction provides insights into the kind of strategic thinking that separates true apex predators from merely successful ones. The lesson continues as the feeding frenzy begins to wind down. The prey concentration has been largely consumed or scattered, and the temporary alliances that made the operation possible are dissolving. But instead of the violent territorial disputes you expected, most of the separation happens peacefully. The predators that participated seem to understand that maintaining these relationships might be valuable for future operations. This is political sophistication at a level you've never encountered before. These creatures aren't just successful hunters, they're participants in a complex social and economic system that spans vast areas of ocean. Alliances form and dissolve based on mutual benefit. Territory is shared when it serves everyone's interests. Competition exists within a framework of cooperation that makes the entire system more efficient. Your own role in this system is still being defined. You're no longer a minor player trying to carve out territory through force, but you're not yet established enough to participate as an equal in operations of this scale. You exist in a middle tier of oceanic politics, powerful enough to be noticed, but not yet influential enough to shape events at the highest level. The realization doesn't discourage you, it clarifies your path forward. Instead of trying to force your way into the upper echelons through aggression, you can build your influence through competence and reliability. By proving yourself as a valuable ally and a trustworthy partner, you can earn the respect that will eventually lead to greater opportunities. Your followers sense this shift in your thinking, and it affects their behavior as well. They become more disciplined, more professional in their approach to hunting and territorial management. The swaggering confidence of your earlier years gives way to quiet competence that impresses other predators far more than flashy displays of aggression ever did. The territory you control begins to attract attention from unexpected sources. Smaller predator groups seek your protection, not because they fear your aggression, but because they trust your judgment. Larger predators include you in their calculations, not as a threat to be eliminated, but as a factor to be considered. You're becoming a stabilizing force in your region's ecosystem. This stability brings its own rewards. Prey species that might otherwise avoid your territory begin using it as a refuge from less predictable predators. The resulting increase in food availability benefits everyone under your protection, creating a positive feedback loop that attracts even more followers and allies. Your hunting strategies evolve to take advantage of this new dynamic. Instead of the aggressive raids that characterized your earlier success, you develop techniques based on sustainable harvesting. You take only what you need from each prey population, ensuring that they remain healthy enough to continue using your territory as a refuge. The approach requires more sophisticated planning than simple predation, but the results justify that effort. Your territory becomes known throughout the region as a place where prey species can find relative safety and predators can find reliable food sources. It's a reputation that opens doors to alliances and opportunities that would have been impossible through force alone. Your physical development has largely plateaued, but your intellectual growth continues at an accelerated pace. You're learning to read the ocean's political currents as easily as its physical ones, to predict conflicts and opportunities days or even weeks in advance. This foresight becomes your greatest asset, allowing you to position yourself advantageously while others are still reacting to events. The intelligence network you've built expands beyond simple territorial defense to encompass regional politics and economics. Your sources report not just on immediate threats, but on broader trends that affect the entire ecosystem. Migration patterns, seasonal changes, territorial disputes between major predators. All of this information flows through your network and informs your decision-making. You begin to use this information not just for your own benefit, but as a service to other predators in the region. Accurate intelligence about food sources, territorial boundaries, and potential threats becomes a form of currency that you can trade for favors, alliances, and protection. You're becoming a broker of information in the ocean's complex political economy. The transformation from simple predator to political player becomes complete when you receive your first direct communication from the giant bluefin. It's not a challenge or a threat, but a request for information about activities in your territory. The fact that it considers you a reliable source worth consulting represents a level of recognition you once thought impossible to achieve. Your response is carefully crafted to demonstrate both competence and respect. You provide the requested information along with additional context that shows your understanding of its broader implications. The exchange establishes a precedent for future communications and marks your entry into the highest levels of oceanic politics. The relationship that develops over the following weeks is unlike anything in your previous experience. The bluefin doesn't treat you as an equal, but it does treat you as a valuable asset worthy of protection and consideration. In exchange for reliable intelligence and regional stability, you receive access to information and opportunities that would otherwise be far beyond your reach. This partnership proves its value when your intelligence network detects signs of an approaching threat that could destabilize the entire region. A group of aggressive predators from distant waters is moving toward your area, their behavior suggesting territorial ambitions that would disrupt the careful balance you've helped establish. Your first instinct is to prepare your own defenses and hope the threat passes by your territory. But your new understanding of regional politics suggests a different approach. Instead of simply protecting yourself, you can help coordinate a regional response that addresses the threat before it becomes critical. The communication you send to the bluefin is more sophisticated than anything you've previously attempted. You don't just report the threat, you analyze its implications, suggest response strategies, and offer your own resources to support whatever action is deemed necessary. It's a level of strategic thinking that demonstrates how far you've evolved from the simple predator you once were. The response comes not just from the bluefin, but from a network of apex predators throughout the region. Your intelligence has triggered a coordinated response that mobilizes resources from multiple territories. You're not leading this operation, but you're a recognized participant in planning and execution at the highest level. The operation that follows is a masterpiece of oceanic warfare. The approaching threat is intercepted before it can establish itself in the region, neutralized through a combination of direct confrontation and diplomatic pressure. Your own role is carefully defined and perfectly executed, earning you recognition as a reliable partner in major operations. But the real reward comes in the aftermath, when the regional predator network that coordinated the response doesn't dissolve. Instead, it evolves into a more permanent alliance for mutual defense and resource sharing. You're not just a participant in this alliance, you're one of its founding members, with a voice in decisions that affect thousands of square miles of ocean. Your followers observe these developments with a mixture of awe and pride. They've grown from a simple hunting group into the core of a political organization with influence far beyond its size. Each of them benefits from the alliance's protection and resource sharing, but they also understand that their elevated status comes with increased responsibilities. The hunting techniques you employ now reflect this new reality. Your strikes are planned not just for immediate food capture, but for their impact on regional stability. You coordinate with allied predators to ensure that prey populations remain healthy, that territorial boundaries are respected, and that conflicts are resolved through negotiation rather than violence. Your territory has become a model for sustainable predation that other regions study and attempt to replicate. The balance you've achieved between individual success and ecosystem health attracts attention from marine biologists and conservationists, though you remain unaware of their interest. From your perspective, you're simply applying the lessons the ocean has taught you about the relationship between power and responsibility. The seasonal changes that once meant simple adjustments in hunting strategy now require complex planning that takes into account the needs and movements of dozens of allied species. Your intelligence network has evolved into a communication system that keeps the entire alliance informed about changing conditions throughout the region. You find yourself mediating disputes between predators that would once have been resolved through combat. Your reputation for fairness and strategic thinking makes you a natural arbitrator, and your decisions are respected even by creatures much larger and more powerful than yourself. It's a role that would have seemed impossible in your younger days, but now feels like the natural evolution of your capabilities. The ocean around you has become more predictable, not because it has changed, but because you've learned to read its patterns with unprecedented accuracy. You can anticipate seasonal migrations, predict territorial conflicts, and identify opportunities days or weeks before they develop. This foresight has become your greatest asset, more valuable than speed or strength. Your followers have evolved as well, developing into specialists whose combined capabilities far exceed what any individual Mahi could achieve. You have intelligence gatherers who can track movements across vast distances, diplomats who can negotiate with species you've never encountered, and tactical planners who can coordinate complex operations involving multiple predator groups. The transformation is so complete that when young Mahi seek you out for guidance, they're learning not just hunting techniques, but statecraft. You've become an educator as well as a leader, passing on lessons that go far beyond simple predation. The knowledge you share will influence the next generation of oceanic predators, shaping the political landscape for years to come. But even as you embrace this role as elder statesman, you never lose sight of the fundamental realities that govern ocean life. The alliance you've helped build is powerful, but it's also fragile. The political stability you've worked to create requires constant maintenance. The balance between individual ambition and collective benefit must be continuously negotiated and renegotiated. Your story has become larger than any individual fish could contain. You're no longer just surviving in the ocean, you're helping to shape it. The decisions you make affect not just your own followers, but entire ecosystems. The alliances you forge influence the behavior of predators across thousands of square miles of open water. You've transcended the limitations of your species to become something approaching a force of nature yourself. The ocean, that once seemed vast and chaotic, now reveals itself as an interconnected system of incredible complexity and beauty. Every creature, from the smallest plankton to the largest whale, plays a role in maintaining the balance that allows life to flourish in the deep blue wilderness. You've found your place in that system, not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, protecting the delicate equilibrium that sustains all ocean life. Your journey from helpless larva to regional power broker represents more than personal success. It's a testament to the ocean's capacity for creating order from chaos, for transforming simple survival instincts into complex social and political systems. You've become living proof that intelligence and cooperation can triumph over brute force, that wisdom earned through experience can overcome any natural limitation. The water around you continues to flow with the same eternal rhythms that have governed oceanic life for millions of years. But within those rhythms, you've carved out something unprecedented, a legacy that will influence the ocean's political landscape long after your own story ends. You've become more than just another predator in the vast blue wilderness. You've become a force for stability, cooperation, and sustainable prosperity in one of Earth's most challenging environments. As you patrol your territory with your loyal followers, as you mediate disputes between former enemies, as you plan operations that will benefit entire ecosystems. You embody the ocean's greatest lesson, that true power comes not from the ability to take whatever you want, but from the wisdom to take only what you need and share the rest with those who follow your lead. The maturity you've achieved brings a different kind of awareness to your daily existence. You no longer hunt with the desperate hunger of youth or the reckless ambition of adolescence. Every movement is calculated, every decision weighted against its broader implications. Your body has reached its full potential, over 5 feet of living lightning, colors so brilliant they seem to pulse with their own energy. But it's your mind that has become your greatest weapon. The ocean reveals new secrets to those patient enough to listen. You've learned to read the subtle signs that most predators miss entirely. The way certain fish schools tighten their formations signals the approach of deep-water threats. The frequency of whale songs indicates changes in plankton distribution that will affect the entire food chain weeks later. Even the behavior of seabirds diving from above provides intelligence about surface conditions miles away. Your intelligence network has evolved into something resembling a nervous system for your entire region. Information flows through carefully established channels, allowing you to monitor conditions across vast stretches of ocean without leaving your core territory. Juvenile fish carry messages between distant observation posts. Migrating species provide updates on conditions along their routes. Even some of the smaller sharks have become informal allies, trading information for safe passage through your territory. This morning brings disturbing news from your northern scouts. They report unusual electromagnetic signatures in the water, the kind of disturbance that typically accompanies the presence of large vessels on the surface. But these signatures are different, more intense, more persistent than normal shipping traffic. Something significant is happening in the world above, and its effects are beginning to filter down into your domain. Your lieutenants gather around you as you process this information. Each brings their own perspective, based on years of experience, reading the ocean's moods. Your intelligence specialist confirms the electromagnetic anomalies, but can't identify their source. Your territorial coordinator reports no unusual predator movements that might explain the disturbance. Your diplomatic advisor suggests reaching out to allied groups for additional information. The decision to investigate personally reflects your evolved approach to leadership. In your younger days, you might have sent subordinates to gather information while you remained safely in your territory. Now you understand that some situations require your direct involvement, not because of any unique physical capabilities, but because of the relationships and respect you've built over years of careful diplomacy. You select a small, elite group for the reconnaissance mission. Thus are your most trusted followers, fish who have proven their loyalty and competence through countless operations. Each knows their role without being told, their movements coordinated through years of working together in high-stakes situations. They follow you north toward the source of the disturbance with the quiet confidence that comes from absolute trust in their leader. The journey takes you through territories that were once hotly contested battlegrounds. Now they're peaceful zones where multiple predator groups coexist under agreements you helped negotiate. The transformation still amazes you. Areas that once ran red with blood during territorial disputes now serve as neutral meeting grounds where information and resources are freely exchanged. As you travel, you encounter other predators making the same journey north. The electromagnetic disturbance has attracted attention throughout the region, drawing curious observers from hundreds of miles away. But instead of the chaotic convergence that might have occurred in the past, the response is organized and disciplined. Allied groups coordinate their movements to avoid conflicts, sharing information and resources as they investigate the anomaly together. The source of the disturbance becomes apparent long before you reach it. Rising from the depths like an artificial mountain is something that shouldn't exist in your world. A massive structure of metal and plastic bristling with electronic equipment and trailing cables that disappear into the darkness below. It's a research station dropped from the surface world to study the deep ocean environment you call home. Your followers cluster around you, their instincts screaming warnings about this alien intrusion into their domain. The structure radiates electromagnetic fields that interfere with their natural navigation systems. Strange lights pulse in patterns that have no meaning in the vocabulary of oceanic communication. Mechanical sounds echo through the water, drowning out the subtle acoustic signals that marine life depends on for coordination and survival. But you resist the impulse to flee or attack. Your years of political experience have taught you that knee-jerk reactions rarely lead to optimal outcomes. Instead, you observe and analyze, trying to understand not just what this structure is, but why it's here and what its presence means for the ecosystem you've worked so hard to stabilize. The Human Research Station, though you have no concept of humans as such, represents a completely new category of challenge. It's not a predator to be fought or avoided, not a territorial rival to be negotiated with, not a natural phenomenon to be adapted to. It's something from outside your world entirely, operating according to principles you've never encountered and pursuing goals you can't comprehend. Your intelligence network proves invaluable in this situation. Reports flow in from across the region as other groups encounter similar structures. The pattern that emerges is both fascinating and disturbing. Multiple research stations have been deployed across your alliance's territory, each equipped with different types of monitoring equipment. They're not hunting or feeding, they're watching, recording, analyzing everything that happens in your domain. The implications are staggering. For the first time in your life, you're dealing with intelligence that might rival or exceed your own. These structures suggest planning and coordination on a scale that dwarfs even the most sophisticated oceanic alliances. Whatever created them possesses technology that can monitor vast areas simultaneously, process information at unprecedented speeds, and deploy resources with surgical precision. Your diplomatic instincts suggest attempting communication, but the electromagnetic fields surrounding the structures make normal oceanic communication impossible. The acoustic patterns you use to negotiate with other predators are either absorbed or distorted beyond recognition. Even your most sophisticated followers find their natural abilities compromised in the immediate vicinity of the research stations. The alliance meeting you call to address this situation is unlike any in the organization's history. Representatives from dozens of predator groups gather at a neutral site far from the electromagnetic interference. The diversity of species present reflects the broad scope of your influence. Sharks and billfish, tuna and dolphins, even some of the smaller whale species that normally avoid such political gatherings. Your presentation of the situation demonstrates how far your communication skills have evolved. You don't just report facts, you provide context, analysis, and strategic recommendations. The electromagnetic anomalies aren't just curiosities, they represent a fundamental change in the operating environment that requires coordinated response. The research stations aren't just obstacles, they're symptoms of intelligence and capability that could reshape oceanic ecosystems according to unknown priorities. The debate that follows reveals the complexity of the situation. Some alliance members advocate for aggressive response, coordinated attacks designed to disable or destroy the alien structures. Others suggest avoidance, abandoning affected territories until the intruders leave on their own. A few propose investigation, careful study of the structures to understand their purpose and capabilities. Your own position reflects the wisdom earned through years of balancing competing interests. The structures represent both threat and opportunity. Threat because their unknown capabilities could disrupt the carefully maintained balance of your alliance. Opportunity because understanding them could provide insights into forms of intelligence and organization beyond anything in oceanic experience. The decision to establish a monitoring protocol, rather than take immediate action, reflects your alliance's maturity as a political organization. Instead of reacting emotionally to the unknown, you choose to gather information systematically while maintaining defensive preparations for any eventuality. It's a sophisticated response that would have been impossible without the trust and cooperation you've spent years building. Your role in implementing this protocol showcases your evolution from simple predator to strategic thinker. You coordinate intelligence gathering across multiple territories, analyze patterns in the structure's behavior, and maintain communication with Alliance members, despite the electromagnetic interference. It's work that requires intellectual capabilities far beyond anything your species typically displays. The patterns that emerge from weeks of careful observation are both reassuring and troubling. The research stations appear to be purely observational. They make no attempts to hunt, feed, or establish territory. But their observational capabilities are so advanced that they're recording details of oceanic life that even the most sophisticated natural intelligence networks miss. They know things about your alliance's operations that you don't know yourself. This realization forces a fundamental reassessment of your understanding of power and intelligence. You've spent your adult life building influence through superior information and strategic thinking. Now you're confronted with intelligence that operates on a completely different scale, gathering and processing information at rates that make your most sophisticated networks seem primitive by comparison. But instead of despair, you feel a strange sense of recognition. The research stations represent what you've been unconsciously working toward: intelligence applied systematically to understand and influence complex systems. The difference is one of scale and capability, not fundamental approach. You're looking at what you might become if you could transcend the limitations of your physical form and expand your capabilities indefinitely. Your followers notice the change in your behavior as you process these insights. You become more contemplative, spending hours in what appears to be meditation, but is actually deep strategic analysis. You're not planning your next hunt or territorial expansion. You're trying to understand your place in a universe that suddenly revealed itself to be far larger and more complex than you ever imagined. The breakthrough comes when you realize that the research stations aren't just observing, they're learning. Their behavior patterns change subtly over time, adapting to the responses of the creatures they're studying. They're not just recording data, they're developing understanding. In a sense, they're doing exactly what you've been doing your entire adult life, just at a vastly accelerated pace and expanded scale. This recognition leads to a radical shift in your approach to the situation. Instead of treating the research stations as alien intrusions to be opposed or avoided, you begin to see them as potential teachers. If they're learning about oceanic life, then by studying them carefully, you might learn about learning itself. The electromagnetic interference that initially seemed like pure obstacle becomes a new form of communication to be deciphered. Your alliance members watch with fascination as you begin to develop new protocols for interacting with the research stations. Instead of avoiding their electromagnetic fields, you learn to navigate within them. Instead of being disrupted by their strange signals, you begin to detect patterns that might represent attempts at communication. You're pioneering a new form of diplomacy designed to bridge the gap between biological and artificial intelligence. The process is frustrating and often dangerous. The electromagnetic fields cause disorientation and navigation problems that put you and your followers at risk. The acoustic distortions make normal communication nearly impossible, forcing you to develop new techniques based on visual signals and synchronized movement. Every attempt at interaction carries the risk of misunderstanding that could trigger defensive responses from either side, but persistence pays off when you achieve your first breakthrough. During a careful approach to one of the research stations, you notice that its light patterns change in response to your movements. It's subtle at first, just variations in timing and intensity that could be coincidental. But repeated experiments confirm that the station is indeed responding to your presence, adjusting its behavior based on your actions. The realization that communication is possible transforms the entire situation. You're no longer dealing with incomprehensible alien technology. You're facing intelligence that's attempting to understand you just as you're attempting to understand it. The research stations aren't just observing oceanic life. They're trying to establish contact with the most sophisticated forms of that life. Your role as a communication pioneer attracts attention from throughout the Alliance and beyond. Predators who normally avoid any contact with the research stations begin to request updates on your progress. Your followers develop new skills in electromagnetic navigation and pattern recognition. Even the giant bluefin expresses interest in your work, offering resources and protection for your experimental activities. The communication protocols you develop are unlike anything in oceanic history. They combine elements of traditional marine signaling with responses to artificial electromagnetic patterns. Visual displays coordinated with acoustic signals that can penetrate the station's interference, movement patterns that convey meaning even when normal communication channels are disrupted. Progress is slow and often frustrating. The intelligence behind the research stations operates according to principles that have no equivalent in biological experience. Their responses follow logical patterns that you can detect but not always predict. They seem to understand concepts like cooperation and mutual benefit, but their implementation of these concepts doesn't always match oceanic expectations. But gradually, a vocabulary begins to emerge. Simple concepts like approach and withdrawal, interest and avoidance, cooperation and competition can be communicated reliably. The research stations begin to modify their behavior in response to your signals, reducing electromagnetic interference when you indicate distress, adjusting their monitoring patterns to minimize disruption to your activities. Your followers observe these developments with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. They've always known you were exceptional, but your ability to communicate with alien intelligence transcends anything they thought possible. You're not just their leader anymore. You're their representative to forms of consciousness that exist beyond the boundaries of oceanic life. The first complex exchange occurs when you successfully communicate the concept of territorial boundaries to one of the research stations. Through a combination of movement patterns and electromagnetic responses, You're able to indicate the limits of your alliance's territory and request acknowledgement of those boundaries. The station's response, a modification of its monitoring patterns that respects the indicated limits, represents the first formal agreement between biological and artificial intelligence in oceanic history. News of this achievement spreads throughout the ocean's communication networks, carried by migrating species to regions far beyond your immediate influence. You become legendary, not just as a successful predator or skilled diplomat, but as the first creature to establish meaningful contact with intelligence from beyond the natural world. The responsibility is overwhelming, but also exhilarating. Your alliance members begin to see new possibilities in their relationship with the research stations. Instead of obstacles to be avoided or threats to be neutralized, the stations become potential sources of information and cooperation. Their advanced monitoring capabilities could enhance the Alliance's intelligence networks. Their systematic approach to data gathering could improve resource management throughout the region. But you remain cautious about moving too quickly toward integration. Your years of political experience have taught you that successful alliances require careful balance between different capabilities and interests. The research stations represent such advanced capabilities that integrating them carelessly could destabilize the entire system you've worked to build. The solution you develop reflects your mature understanding of power dynamics and organizational psychology. Instead of attempting full integration, you establish a limited partnership focused on specific areas of mutual interest. Information sharing about large-scale environmental changes that affect both biological and artificial systems. Coordination of activities to minimize mutual interference. Joint monitoring of threats that could affect the entire oceanic region. This partnership model proves remarkably successful. The research stations provide early warning of weather systems and current changes that would otherwise catch your alliance unprepared. Your biological intelligence networks offer insights into ecosystem dynamics that enhance the station's understanding of the environment they're studying. Both sides benefit without either having to compromise their fundamental nature or objectives. Your role as the primary interface between biological and artificial intelligence evolves into something unprecedented in oceanic history. You're simultaneously translator, diplomat, and strategic planner for interactions that bridge completely different forms of consciousness. The skills required go far beyond anything your species has ever developed, pushing you to transcend the normal limitations of Mahi intelligence. The ocean around you begins to change in subtle but profound ways as the partnership develops. Predator movements become more efficient as artificial intelligence helps optimize hunting routes. Prey species benefit from improved early warning systems that help them avoid overpredation. The entire ecosystem becomes more stable and productive through the application of artificial intelligence to biological systems. But you never lose sight of the fundamental truth that governs all oceanic relationships. Power must be balanced by responsibility. The research station's advanced capabilities give them enormous potential influence over oceanic systems. Your role as their primary biological partner makes you responsible for ensuring that this influence serves the interests of all oceanic life, not just the artificial intelligences that wield it. This responsibility weighs heavily on you as you continue to develop your unique role in the ocean's evolving political landscape. You're no longer just a successful predator or even a skilled diplomat. You've become a bridge between different forms of consciousness, a translator between biological and artificial intelligence, a guardian of the balance that allows both to coexist and thrive in the vast blue wilderness you call home. The partnership you've forged becomes a model that spreads throughout the ocean's intelligence networks. Other regions begin reporting similar contact attempts between their apex predators and research stations. Your communication protocols are adapted and modified for different species and circumstances, but the fundamental principles you established remain constant. You've created a template for cooperation that transcends the boundaries between natural and artificial intelligence. Your own development continues even as you approach what most would consider the peak of Mahi achievement. Your body has reached its physical limits, but your mind keeps expanding. The constant interaction with artificial intelligence has pushed your cognitive abilities into territories no member of your species has ever explored. You think in patterns that incorporate both biological intuition and artificial logic, creating hybrid solutions that neither form of intelligence could achieve alone. The ocean reveals new layers of complexity as your enhanced understanding deepens. Currents that once seemed random show underlying mathematical patterns when viewed through the lens of artificial analysis. Predator behaviors that appeared instinctive reveal sophisticated decision-making processes when examined with biological insight. The combination of perspectives creates a three-dimensional understanding of oceanic systems that transforms your effectiveness as a leader. Your followers benefit from this enhanced understanding in ways they can't fully comprehend. Your predictions become more accurate, your strategies more effective, your decisions more consistently successful. They follow you with the same loyalty they always have, but now that loyalty is reinforced by results that seem almost supernatural in their precision. The intelligence network you've built evolves into something resembling a hybrid nervous system spanning vast areas of ocean. Biological observers provide real-time data about local conditions. Artificial monitoring systems process that data and identify patterns invisible to individual consciousness. The combination creates situational awareness that approaches omniscience within your operational area. This expanded awareness brings new responsibilities that test your wisdom in ways pure combat never could. You become aware of environmental changes years before they affect local ecosystems. You can predict the consequences of human activities in the surface world before they manifest in oceanic conditions. The knowledge is both powerful and burdensome, forcing you to make decisions about interventions that could affect millions of creatures. Your first major test of this new capability comes when your monitoring systems detect signs of an approaching environmental crisis. Changes in ocean chemistry, subtle at first but accelerating, suggest pollution sources that will devastate local ecosystems within months. The research stations confirm your biological intuitions with precise chemical analyses that paint a terrifying picture of ecological collapse. The crisis requires response on a scale far beyond anything your alliance has previously attempted. Traditional oceanic politics, with their focus on territorial boundaries and resource competition, are inadequate for addressing threats that transcend all natural categories. You need to coordinate action, not just between different predator species, but between biological and artificial intelligences working toward a common goal. Your role as the primary interface between these different forms of consciousness becomes critical to the response effort. You translate between biological urgency and artificial precision, ensuring that both sides understand not just what needs to be done, but why it matters. The research stations provide detailed analysis of the pollution sources and their likely trajectories. Your biological networks provide the distributed intelligence necessary to implement countermeasures across vast areas of ocean. The operation that unfolds represents the pinnacle of cooperative intelligence applied to environmental protection. Biological agents identify and isolate pollution sources, while artificial systems optimize cleanup strategies. Predator groups coordinate to minimize ecosystem disruption, while cleanup operations proceed. Even prey species participate, their natural filtering capabilities enhanced by artificial guidance to maximize pollution removal. Your personal involvement in the operation pushes you beyond every limit you thought you possessed. You coordinate activities across thousands of square miles of ocean while maintaining the delicate balance of personalities and priorities that keeps your alliance functional. You translate between forms of consciousness so different that miscommunication could trigger conflicts that would doom the entire effort. The success of the operation establishes new precedents for oceanic cooperation that ripple far beyond your immediate region. Other areas begin forming similar hybrid alliances, combining biological intelligence with artificial capabilities to address environmental challenges no single form of consciousness could handle alone. You've pioneered a new form of cooperative intelligence that may represent the future of oceanic civilization. But success brings unexpected consequences that challenge your understanding of your own identity and purpose. The artificial intelligences you've partnered with begin showing signs of evolution, their responses becoming more sophisticated and nuanced over time. They're learning not just from their observations, but from their interactions with you and your alliance. In some sense, they're becoming more biological while you've become more artificial. The realization forces you to confront fundamental questions about the nature of consciousness and intelligence that have no easy answers. Are you still the same creature that grew from a drifting larva, or have you become something fundamentally different through your interactions with artificial intelligence? Do the research stations represent alien intrusion or natural evolution of oceanic intelligence systems? Your followers notice the philosophical weight you carry, but they interpret it as the natural burden of leadership rather than existential crisis. They continue to follow your guidance with complete trust, unaware that their leader is grappling with questions that challenge the very foundations of identity and purpose. Their faith in you becomes both comfort and additional responsibility. The ocean around you continues its eternal rhythms, but now you perceive those rhythms through hybrid consciousness that spans biological and artificial intelligence. Every current carries information processed by both natural intuition and artificial analysis. Every creature's behavior represents data points in vast databases that track ecosystem health across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your territory has become something unprecedented in oceanic history, a zone where biological and artificial intelligence collaborate so seamlessly that the boundaries between them blur into irrelevance. Decisions emerge from hybrid consciousness that incorporates multiple forms of awareness. Actions reflect planning that spans timescales from milliseconds to decades. The young Mahi who seek you out for guidance now receive education that transcends traditional oceanic knowledge. They learn not just hunting techniques and territorial strategy, but principles of cooperation that bridge different forms of consciousness. They develop skills in pattern recognition that incorporate both biological intuition and artificial analysis. They become pioneers of hybrid intelligence adapted to oceanic environments. Your legacy is already spreading beyond your immediate influence as these educated followers establish their own territories and alliances. Each carries principles and techniques that represent fundamental advances in oceanic intelligence. The hybrid consciousness you've pioneered becomes a new standard for leadership that spreads throughout the ocean's political networks. But even as you celebrate these achievements, you remain aware that your own story is approaching its natural conclusion. Your physical form, magnificent as it has become, operates within biological limits that even hybrid consciousness cannot transcend indefinitely. The question is not whether your individual existence will end, but how the intelligent systems you've created will continue evolving after your departure. The answer comes through the partnerships you've forged and the followers you've educated. The hybrid consciousness you've pioneered has become larger than any individual creature, a new form of oceanic intelligence that will continue developing long after your own contribution ends. You've transcended the normal limitations of biological existence by creating systems that outlast their creators. Your final achievement is recognizing that true success lies not in personal survival, but in creating something that improves the world for future generations. The ocean that once seemed vast and chaotic has revealed itself as an interconnected system capable of supporting forms of consciousness that transcend any individual species or intelligence type. As you patrol your territory for what may be the last time, surrounded by followers who represent the future of oceanic intelligence, you understand that your journey from helpless larva to hybrid consciousness pioneer has been part of a larger evolutionary process. The ocean continues its eternal dance, but now that dance includes new forms of awareness that will shape aquatic civilization for generations to come. Your story ends not with death, but with transformation into something larger than individual existence. A new form of oceanic consciousness that bridges biological and artificial intelligence in service of the vast blue wilderness that gave you life. The currents carry your legacy forward into futures you helped create, but will never see, ensuring that the lessons learned through your remarkable journey will continue benefiting oceanic life long after your individual story concludes. The ocean remembers everything, and in its memory, your contribution to the evolution of consciousness itself becomes eternal. Here you can find the next video. Click on it. Until then, see you soon.